Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ironworker Gaming channel. I am Ironworker814 and thank you for joining me for another Destiny 2 PvP viewer requested weapon review, where we take a look at pros, cons, stats, damage numbers, and how to obtain the weapon. This review was requested by Nikki Samak, and the weapon we're examining today is Witherhoard. And if at any point during this video you find it useful, or if you're just enjoying the content and the manner in which it is presented, help a buddy out and hit that like button. And consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel to see more Destiny 2 weapon reviews similar to this one. But the Witherhoard, I gotta say, I'm glad we waited a little bit to review this grenade launcher, since on release this weapon was running rampant in the Crucible. As soon as everyone got their hands on this weapon, it was nearly impossible to play a Crucible match without goop puddles littering the map. But now that usage rate has pretty well stabilized, we can really take a look at this weapon in the Crucible and see what it can do for us. And we'll finally be able to tell if that heavy usage rate was truly warranted, or if it was just driven by the shiny new toy effect and the pursuit of the catalyst. So we're going to take a good solid look at Witherhoard and see how it stacks up in PvP, right after we go over how to obtain this weapon and the catalyst for those who have not done so already. Witherhoard was introduced into Destiny 2 in Season of Arrivals, and it is the featured Season Pass exotic. So if you have purchased Season 11, you are able to pull this out of the pass right off the bat. For those going down the free-to-play track, you can snag this weapon at rank 35 in the Season Pass. Upon acquisition, you can visit Banshee and begin the process of unlocking the catalyst. This can be done by completing the Bank Job quest, where you will first need to obtain Vault Keys, which can drop from non-power weapon grenade launcher kills. After obtaining 50 Vault Keys, you're going to be on step 2 of the quest, which is going to require you to play some Gambit Crucible or run some Nightfalls. Also, you'll need 200 grenade launcher multi-kills and 100 grenade launcher kills versus Guardians. Power weapon grenade launchers do count for this quest step. Upon completion, you can return to Banshee and claim your catalyst. And now on to the stats and damage numbers. Alright, Witherhoard is an exotic kinetic breach load grenade launcher. As far as the stats go, we do have decent handling, but a very poor projectile velocity. Also, I'm sure you see that the blast radius appears to be next to nothing, but that really doesn't stack up with the in-game performance. Witherhoard's intrinsic trait is Primeval's Torment, where projectiles fired from this weapon blight the target or the nearby area on impact. The exotic perk is Break the Bank. Blighted targets take damage over time and blight the nearby area on death. The exotic catalyst is where we get that big jump to our handling. And also, holstering this weapon automatically reloads it after a short period of time, so essentially we're adding auto-loading holster to Witherhoard. And for the damage numbers, on direct impact, Witherhoard is going to do 10 points of impact damage, followed by 3 damage ticks of 80 points of damage apiece, for a total of 250 points of damage before Agent Sparkles explodes into a goopy puddle. On a near miss, we will see 40 points of blast damage, followed by rapid damage ticks coming from the area of effect, doing 40.5 damage apiece. That blast damage obviously diminishes the further the target is away from the initial blast, dropping down to 8 points of damage at roughly 4 meters. The damage field, or goop puddle as I have so eloquently been calling it, has a 10-meter diameter, and has a duration of roughly 6 seconds. So now that we have a general understanding of how Witherhoard functions, let's take a look at what it can do for us in PvP. First off, Witherhoard is a very unique weapon that truly feels exotic, and it's nice to see that Bungie seems to be moving toward creating exotics that truly feel unique in form and function. Now, Witherhoard does have the ability to score a one-hit kill, but we also have the added benefit of creating an AoE damage field after a direct impact on an enemy Guardian, which can very quickly put down nearby unsuspecting enemy players. And the affected area is slightly larger when compared to that of area of effect grenade abilities. And even if the grenade does not immediately contact an enemy Guardian, this serves as a solid primer weapon to open an engagement with, especially with the increased handling and auto-loading holster functionality from the catalyst. This allows you to quickly swap to your energy weapon to clean up kills, and then back to Witherhoard, which is now reloaded, and the cycle continues. And then a competent Witherhoard user can keep the enemy team on their toes and hopefully a little bit off kilter, forcing movement from the enemy team, especially in tighter areas of the map, or even funneling enemy players in a desired direction if you have the planning and foresight to do so. And the damage field from Witherhoard can serve as a solid deterrent, potentially keeping enemies off your flanks or covering your escape if you find yourself in a bad spot. On top of that, the projectile from Witherhoard will not detonate until it hits a horizontal surface. so feel free to bank this thing off walls and around corners. And also, the AoE damage field from your Witherhoard will not cause you any self-damage. You can potentially take a little bit from the initial blast, but not the damage field itself. So Goop Puddle Melee is a totally viable option. But there are several areas in the Crucible where Witherhoard just comes up a little bit short, so let's get into those now. Alright, to kick off the cons, I'm sure you've noticed that this weapon does shoot a very slow moving projectile that basically nosedives straight out of the barrel. This can make it very difficult to land a grenade on a highly mobile target. Also, you're going to need to develop a feel for how much you're going to need to compensate for that projectile drop to land the grenade where you want it. It's definitely a weapon you're going to have to practice with before you can get things really dialed in. Next, in the more open areas of Crucible maps, your puke puddles can be easily avoided. The area of effect from your grenade is very visible and very obvious. Enemy guardians are not just gonna wander into this thing, generally speaking. Also, Witherhoard seems to have what I have always referred to as diminishing effectiveness as the Crucible match goes on. I was generally more successful in the early stages of the match when I still had the element of surprise on my side. As soon as the enemy players started to take notice that there was a Witherhoard on the field though, they started looking out for it. And then I really started to see a dip in my cheap or fortunate kills. And then when a smarter or more in tune player realized that I was the Witherhoard guy, they knew that they could rush me and all I had to deal with them was a primary weapon basically. And lastly, with the highly mobile and increasingly vertical playstyle of many guardians in PvP, Witherhoard can kind of feel out of place. Like I said earlier, Witherhoard can struggle against mobile targets, but it is nearly worthless against airborne targets. And more, gunfights are being won and lost in the air. Generally speaking, a player that can make good use of their vertical space is much more successful than a player whose boots never leave the ground. And sure, you can clip someone mid-air with Witherhoard, but it is certainly not the ideal weapon for that engagement. So the verdict, and do I think Witherhoard is a good option for the Crucible? No, not really. While I do think this weapon is really cool and it can be a lot of fun to use, if I'm actually going into PvP and trying to play semi-serious, Witherhoard is just not the weapon I'm reaching for. And before you run down to the comments and call me a POS and all sorts of other mean nasty things because I didn't recommend your favorite Crucible gun, understand that I am not calling you a bad person and telling you you're using a garbage weapon. This is not a personal attack on your character. This is simply the opinion of a B- Destiny player. If you're finding a great deal of success with this weapon, then there is absolutely no reason to put it down. I talked to a guy the other day who runs Polaris Lance full time and slays out with it. Saying I was impressed is an understatement. For me though, Witherhoard just has too many ways for the enemy team to work around it to make me want to use it. If Witherhoard just feels like it was built for you to wield it, that's fantastic. It just wasn't built for me. So if you've enjoyed this video or you can respect my perspective, a like is greatly appreciated. And consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel to see more Destiny 2 reviews, guides, and discussions similar to this one. I do stream on Twitch from time to time. If you'd like to head over there and give Ironworker814 a follow, you will get notified whenever I go live. You can also reach out to Ironworker814 on Twitter, but the best way to get a hold of me is simply to comment down below. So feel free to leave any questions, comments, or feedback down there. And with all that being said, I'd like to thank you for spending a piece of your day checking out this weapon review. You guys are awesome, and I will catch you on the next one.